Hi, I'm Natasha Ryan with Premier Risk Solutions, and this is our video series, Strong, Safe, and True, where we sit down with leaders in our industry to talk about topics relevant to today. And I am delighted to have Stasha Wyskiel from Salesforce with me. Stasha, we're going to delve into phasing people back into the office, what that's like, and new considerations that you have to think about all the time as a manager. But first of all, tell everyone a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, great. And thanks very much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So I actually fall in the emergency management, crisis management side of our world, right? So safety and security as it pertains to sort of the physical assets, our human resources, our employees, our Ohana. A lot more than just badging in, badging out. Not that there's not an enormous place for that in our
Sure.
safety toolbox, but I've been doing emergency management, crisis management, and working in that realm since 1993. So that makes me old. Been at Salesforce since 2013, and I cover, again, the crisis and emergency management, the global operations centers, which is very much a sort of a traditional security role. Risk as it pertains to global safety and security, which is an interesting and emerging place for our talents to flow. Who's better to recognize what can go wrong in the world than those who spend all their time trying to make sure they don't go wrong. And then also business continuity. So when something goes boom in the night, you're going to hear from one of my team.
Okay, thank you. And I actually heard Stasha speak at an As Is panel discussion. And the thing that led me to contact you was your belief in empathy and how you manage your people. And I just thought it spoke to our core values at PRS and just in general, being a good human. So thank you. And I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint so we can just get this rolling and kind of give you an overview here. Again, Stasha is who is with us from Salesforce. And the scope of what we're talking about today is, coming back to work in a safe capacity, right? Because this is something all managers are now facing we're still in the pandemic. So the topics specifically are how to phase employees back into the office, how to do that safely, all the new protocols that have to go on inside your office buildings, a lot around cleaning and security. And then the next step that we really want to delve into here post-pandemic is mental health, because now that is going to affect your employees on a new level, and that's a new part of management. But first of all, here's your stoplight rating system. And this kind of guides you as to how many people you're bringing back and when it's safe to do it. So can you just break this down for us a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, we of course have to take government guidance into consideration. San Francisco, where we have quite a few of our people, is often more conservative than the state, right? So we're always sort of playing against expectations in that realm. Also, we have often chosen to be more conservative than some governments, because when we look at the way that we wanted to see COVID data, and you see, what we're looking at around positivity rates, testing frequency, whether or not we have any information around hospital capacities and whatnot. There are some governments that, they're weighing whether or not they can still make money with the safety of their citizens, their residents. We don't have to, right? So we have a little bit more room to be more conservative. And then, of course, talking to our leaders. We have smaller offices. Do people want us to spend the time, the money, the effort, spend the calories to get that office open or not? What we're seeing now, and I think we'll talk about it, is with the way we're opening up in the United States. I think we have something like 12, 14 offices coming online in the next 4 weeks. And so that's really exciting. But in other places, of course, and we talked about India very specifically, sadly, last time that we saw each other, we're not anywhere close to opening in India right now. That's a crisis within a greater crisis at the moment. And we're doing everything we can. And again, to your comment earlier, leading with empathy, what can we do to make sure our employees are okay? Given what we're seeing there.
Okay, so we'll come to that a little bit more here in a second. The reopening strategy with Salesforce is these volunteer vaccinated cohorts, right? So, and then phased reopening and then fully open. So let's go ahead and talk about how do the volunteer groups work? How do you walk this line of doing what Salesforce believes is the right thing and not being and employees being okay with it?
Yeah, sure. So any place that we're opening with this 100-person, sometimes the cohort is larger. It depends on the size of the facility. Let's just use 100 as our baseline. It is fully voluntary. All of our employees can work from home without question, unless you have a job that you need to be in the office for. And those people have been in the office since the beginning of COVID, for the most part. You can work from home until the end of the year. And that's just a given. If you have gotten a vaccination, if you wish to come back in, and in America, we are allowed to do this. In Europe, we're not so much. Privacy issues being very different. You can opt in to prove that you've been vaccinated, and then you're welcome to come in. And we keep the floors that we're having people come in on very isolated. And again, we're going to talk about cleaning and whatnot. But this allows some people who have taken steps that they could to increase our health and the health of our communities to have a way back in a little bit sooner than waiting for the rest of the data to catch up.
And it looks like, I want to talk a little bit before we get into cleaning. I noticed that guests and visitors are addressed in these reopening models. So how are you handling that with clients of Salesforce that want to meet with someone in person? What do you tell them? Can they give a proof of vaccination or no at this point?
We can still meet with customers. There's a process that we've had into place. It is critical sometimes to do face-to-face. Often now we're seeing not so critical. We're doing a lot more business. We've been happily, very successful even through COVID. So that was something we didn't expect to see, to the extent we've had our best quarter. And that beats our best quarter in 21 years at the beginning of COVID. So often we're not, thank you, hope you're in stock. Customers have always been, we've had a process to go ahead and look at that. And as you see, as we go into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, customers are permitted. We do not ask them to provide vaccination, but they go through a wellness attestation as they come into our facility. Are you feeling well? Have you taken a temperature? Sure. We have the ability often to take temperatures on site as well, in case somebody's not feeling quite up to speed.
That's great. So there are safer buildings. I'm seeing, upgraded air filtration, little things, right, that we're seeing everywhere, but you're also implementing, like making sure things are individually wrapped instead of just, pick which one you want and then bag it yourself.
Yes, right. We used to have the huge containers of gummy bears, which were quite frankly my downfall. So better for me that we have them individually wrapped. The more interesting question there is, how do you balance that against sustainability? The reason everybody went to bulk was so we wouldn't have all this packaging. So that's a fight we're still looking to win.
Trying to figure out, yeah.
But we do have a very strict rules around what snacks we have. We have touchless now. All our coffee machines are touchless, right? You do a QR code, is that what it is? And
yeah,
and you can order it. And so even the touch screens now, you don't have to put your fingers on. So a lot of interesting stuff that the real estate and workplace services teams have come up with to make sure that we are touching things less.
And you have to think also, right, about, protecting anyone that walks into your business, even people that maybe have proven to be vaccinated. You still are implementing something that I found interesting, right? Like a clean desk policy. Okay, so this kind of plays into our mental health bit. So when you say clean desk policy, people are like, oh, big deal, you have to have a clean desk. No, what it means is everything comes off of the desk. So your picture of your little girl or the plant that you've had for 2 years and kept alive, like all of those things are now not allowed to make you feel at home. So here we go into another mental health component that I want to dive into you with about that. So let's talk about the cleaning and then how that relates to mental health.
Yeah, well, so the cleaning will also help with the sort of normal flu, right? So it's going to be very interesting if people keep their level of hygiene and all the things that we've learned as we enter the world. Fingers crossed. The fact that we had to tell people to wash their hands during COVID made me worried for what they were doing before. But here are some of the things, right? In the clean desk policy, to your point, we do have the ability, people can have cubby holes as they need, little small lockers, if they have something that they would need to bring in on a day-to-day. We're working with ergonomic teams. What does it mean if you're at a different desk? The height thing is not the easiest thing to dial in.
Sure.
And we have social areas where we expect people to put some of the things that they would have on their desk as they need. And so we're looking to see how it works. We're learning all the time. The slides that I used 2 months ago now are some of them are out of date, right? We've really continuously tweak and move forward with the input from our employees and balance that against the advice we get from our medical experts, right? So there's a little give and take happening. But for the most part, clean desk policies is a challenge for some of us.
And when we talk about adapting, right? So here are some of the, I look at the better, right? So finally, I think a lot of us, yes, you're right, have recognized that work-life balance because it was forced on us, right? Like that's one of the positives from COVID that I think a lot of people echo, right? Is that, oh, well, now I've spent more time at home with my family, less time commuting in the car, and those kinds of things. And when we see this, I think we think people are adapting so well that there might be positivity from all of this. But in fact, the mental health component, especially when you re-enter an office and you're in that environment again, what are some of the concerns you have as a manager?
For my team, we were already geographically dispersed, so less so much for the folks that I directly manage. But it is a tough question. People are going to have potential anxiety getting onto our public transportation systems, making sure that people really feel empowered not to come in. We're really moving to a model, and we're doubling down. I know a lot of companies are saying, a few months ago, they were like, it's all going to be flex, it's all going to be hybrid. And now as we have to put policies in place and we have to put some guardrails up, you're seeing some of the emphasis change. We're doubling down on, we think we can work from anywhere successfully. It has to be a legal entity, of course, but what does that then mean? People are choosing to live outside of the Bay Area. The Bay Area is very expensive. And they're choosing to live outside. Maybe they're not even near a hub. So do they go remote full time? Maybe. Others are moving to places where we have an office and sort of redirecting into those offices as they come online. The balance is, yes, did we spend a lot more time with our kids? Sure did. Was it quality? Don't know. It was very stressful for a long time. Yes. And now as we make that transition from living at work, back to different ways and hopefully using the best. Well, the most interesting thing for me to think about is a lot of our big leaders, our executive leaders are saying, even for town halls, even for big events, instead of having everyone come to me, the fact that we democratized the way that we do business with everyone calling in and everyone having the same amount of face time and everyone having the same experience was really interesting. There's no FOMO, I guess it is. Again,
Yeah.
Old fear of missing out because you couldn't get here from London or you didn't have the opportunity. And that's really interesting. And that's a huge positive, is making sure people feel like they have the same level playing field. If I see you at the water cooler at the coffee bar every day, when you come up for some sort of promotion or award, I'm going to be like, oh, that's who that is. And it may tip the balance and somebody else who is likely equally worthy. Maybe I just don't know who they are.
Right.
And so those things are very interesting. But when it comes to welcoming people back, we're continuously looking at the safety components. We're continuously tweaking things to make our employees feel safer, better, happier about it. And we're really, again, doubling down on a new way of working. And if I just opened up a job description or a job post, and I don't have to say it has to be Bay Area now. Yeah. That means everyone in the world.
You just opened your talent pool, essentially.
100%, right?
Yeah.
And I think that
Yeah.
becomes really interesting, especially for security people. We're looking at what does it mean if only 25% of our offices are utilized, right? I may not need that many guards, but how do we redirect their energy and their expertise now
Right.
into something else? And we certainly did that with our global operations centers. Our focus is now much less on alarms, even as we open, and much more on trying to be predictive to make sure we can tell you in Petaluma that the lightning storm is coming, that you may have a power outage, that being a lot more proactive.
Yes.
That's one way for our security folks who already use intelligence every day to become a little bit more relevant, maybe in the new way that we go about our business.
That's another great thought process for another discussion. I could talk about that for an hour, but I want to get back to, you do as a manager, when you have your folks come in and you see them, people you do know and interact with in the lunchroom or at their desk, you walk by, hey, how are you today? You can kind of gauge if something's going on, maybe that you should be concerned about. You can watch behavioral patterns, and every manager has talked about, now it's harder, right? Because Susie's at home and I don't see her and I don't know. And is this something, I would imagine some managers just kind of put, what do I do in that situation on the back burner, thinking I'll just, I'll deal with it if I have to, but people will be coming back to work eventually. But now that we're seeing more people permanently stay at home, what should we do about this collectively, right? What should managers do to put the stock in the mental health of their employees now that they may not have that ability to see or discern?
No, that's a great question. So there are a few things. I am really quite a mama bear when it comes to my team, and I will badger you until you take time off.
Yeah.
And if I see that you are agreeing
take a vacation,
yes, at least a day. I'm not saying, because people still, kids at home and whatever, like, right. I want it to be meaningful and I want it to be relaxing. So that's one of the things, is really making sure people are taking the time they need. And again, it doesn't have to be a Friday. It doesn't have to, you tell me, but as long as you let us know, we've got your back. We know we can backfill. We know what the escalation looks like, et cetera. One of the things we just started doing with my team meetings, and I am not somebody that you would expect this from if you knew me very well, is doing a meditation, a guided meditation before we enter our meeting. And it's just something we started. We have an incredible wellness group for our department. And I said, you know what, I want to try that.
How's it working?
We'll find out tomorrow. I'm getting feedback from it.
Nice.
We'll see. But I did initially get a little feedback that people were like, yeah, I felt a little bit more centered. It gave me a moment, because we're still even worse than being at work. When you're going meeting to meeting, they used to give you time to walk. Now we don't, right? Like everything. Right. And just to have a moment so people could transition from what they'd just been doing, whether it was laundry or another meeting, to begin to focus on what we need to as a team. I hope we'll see. I have a tough crowd. We'll see if they like it. But we do an awful lot as a company around mental health and Be Well. We have a whole program, and it's experts that come in and talk about, how are we talking to teens about the pandemic, really trying to hone in on for our people to hear. To your point, we need to make sure we are in more contact than we ever were, because I can't do a drive-by to make sure you're okay. I do request, if I have a one-on-one, that we're on camera. It's just a way, much like our security personnel, right? One of our superpowers is reading the room, reading people, right. Seeing how they present, and that was taken away from us. So we need to learn how to do it via video. I think quite a few of us sort of made that transition, but I hope my team knows they can come to me. I hope they know how to get the help they need, should they need. I hope they know I'm going to back them 100%, and that just goes to the trust that I hope I've built with them. And it's just something that you always have to keep reiterating.
All right. I think we can end it on that. That was a great wrap up, Stasha. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being with us. And thanks to all of you for watching. come back to our website, premierrisksolutions.com, for weekly videos just like this one. We aim to help educate, and just if we can give any sort of morsel that helps anyone, we've accomplished something, right? So thanks
Absolutely.
again, Stasha.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.